It started quiet, too quiet for a Thursday night. The kind of silence that only happens after 3 a.m. when the town feels like it's holding its breath. The air smelled like wet asphalt and diesel from the highway, and the light rain tapping against the cruiser roof sounded almost rhythmic, like a slow clock counting down the rest of our shift. O'Donnell was half asleep in the passenger seat, radio turned low to avoid dispatch chatter. We'd been out since 7 p.m., routine patrol, empty streets, welfare checks, a DUI near the industrial park. Just the usual noise that fills the gaps before sunrise. Then dispatch came through. Female caller from Route 16, near mile 23. Claimed she heard screaming in the woods behind her property. Transmission was broken, barely audible. Then she stopped talking mid-sentence. No disconnect tone, no follow-up. Just a deadline. The log entry showed 3:12 a.m., open line. Possible domestic disturbance. O'Donnell adjusted the mic, his voice flat with fatigue. Dispatch, Unit 47 responding. Any additional info? Only static answered. The light on the radio blinked once and stayed red. We exchanged a glance. I tried again. Nothing. No return frequency. The rest of the channels were gone too. Just bursts of static, then silence. I noted it for the report, but a small part of me felt something cold crawl under my ribs. The system shouldn't go down like that. Not out here. We turned off the main road, tires crunching on wet gravel. GPS glitched twice, screen blinking white, then loading the map again. Only now it showed no road at all, just blank green and gray. Probably a bad signal, O'Donnell muttered, but his tone didn't sound sure. The fog grew thicker as we climbed the incline toward mile 23. Headlights caught every droplet like dust in the air. Pine trees lined both sides, stretching high and black against the low sky. The further we went, the more it felt like the forest was closing in, folding around the car. The wipers beat back the rain in lazy, uneven strokes. The heater hummed too loudly. My ears picked up something faint beneath it, like a frequency hum, almost subsonic. When I turned the volume knob on the radio, the noise didn't change. It wasn't coming from there. I glanced at O'Donnell. He was staring at the dashcam screen. "You see that?" he whispered. The monitor had flickered for a second, just one frame, showing something standing by the roadside. A person, maybe. It looked like a man, tall, wearing dark clothes, soaked from the rain, not facing the camera but turned slightly away, head lowered. Then the feed cut back to normal, showing only fog and road. "Probably a glitch," I said, but I didn't sound convinced. The forest swallowed the last sign of the highway behind us. The cruiser's lights seemed weaker, like the fog was eating them. We passed an old wooden sign with no lettering left on it. I remembered there used to be houses out here, a small community in the 80s before the state bought the land. Now, it was mostly empty structures and forgotten mailboxes. O'Donnell checked his tablet. Address reads 213 Old Ridge Lane. He squinted at the screen. No listing, no resident file. He scrolled again. "You sure this isn't some prank call?" "Doesn't sound like one," I said. The voice on that recording hadn't been playful. It had been afraid. The road narrowed into a single dirt path. Mud splashed up the sides of the cruiser. Every turn felt the same. Wet trees, black sky, broken fence lines. The rain intensified, heavy drops hammering the windshield. Somewhere out in the dark, an animal screeched. It didn't sound right. Too high-pitched, too human. I reached for the dash mic again, tried to call in. All I got was a short tone, like feedback, then a distorted whisper. I swear it said our call sign. "Unit 47. Do you copy?" The rest dissolved into static. O'Donnell's hand froze on the door handle. That didn't sound like dispatch. It didn't sound like anyone, I said. I slowed the car. The headlights swept across a clearing up ahead. An old trailer sat there, rusted roof sagging, porch light flickering weakly. The house looked abandoned. No tire tracks, no footprints, but the light was still on. We stopped about 20 yards away. Steam rose off the hood. The rain smelled sharp, metallic. I noted the time, 3:41. and stepped out first. The mud was deep enough to suck at my boots. Every breath fogged the air white. I could feel the vibration of the cruiser's engine behind me. Then it sputtered once and died. Complete silence. No wind, no birds, no insects. Even the rain seemed to hush. The trailer door moved slightly, creaking like something had brushed past it. I called out, "Police! Anyone inside?" My voice sounded too small. No answer. O'Donnell moved to my side, flashlight cutting through the mist. The beam caught movement near the tree line. Something pale slipping between the trees, too fast to identify. "Did you see that?" he asked. "Yeah." "What was it?" "I don't know." We stood there for maybe a full minute, listening. The woods felt alive, but not in a natural way, like every tree was leaning just a little closer, waiting. My radio clicked once. A faint breath came through, slow and uneven. Then a voice whispered, right against the speaker, "Don't go in." O'Donnell turned toward the cruiser, but the headlights were dimming, fading out like a dying pulse. Then the dash cam light blinked red again. Recording. I hadn't touched it. I looked back toward the trailer. The porch light flickered, then went out. Everything turned black. That's when I realized I could still hear breathing, deep, heavy, behind me. The dashcam footage later showed the moment our lights died. Just a faint hiss from the rain and two silhouettes in the dark, barely visible through the fog. But standing there, it felt like the air itself had thickened. Each breath scraped my throat like ash. I turned slowly, flashlight trembling in my hand, cutting pale arcs through the mist. Nothing, just the empty road, the cruiser, the trees leaning like a black tide behind us. The breathing sound stopped the moment I moved. For a few seconds, even the rain hesitated, hanging midair before falling again. O'Donnell whispered, "I don't like this. Let's check the house, then get out." His voice barely carried, muffled by the wet air. We approached the trailer. The door creaked on its hinges, nudged by the wind or something else. The beam from my light caught torn curtains inside, flapping like they were breathing. The place smelled like rot and iron. There were wet footprints on the porch, bare, human, but small. A child's maybe. They let out of the house, not in. I called it an out of habit. "Dispatch, this is Unit 47, checking abandoned residence, Old Ridge Lane. Possible 10 to 56. My thumb pressed the mic static again. Then faint laughter, like someone whispering underwater. I froze, hand still on the mic. "Did you hear that?" O'Donnell nodded slowly. "Yeah, I heard." We exchanged a look that said more than words could. He pushed the door open with his boot. It swung inward, groaning. The flashlight beams danced across a small living room. Overturned chair, an old television showing nothing but gray fuzz, and a single lamp still on, casting a dull yellow circle on the floor. The plug was half out of the wall, wires humming faintly. I could swear the static from the TV was whispering something, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. O'Donnell went left, clearing the narrow hallway. I stayed by the front. The carpet squished wet under my boots. I checked the kitchen, plate still on the table, a half-full glass of water that trembled with every step I took. Someone had been here recently. I called out again, "Police! If anyone's here, make yourself known." The sound bounced off the walls and came back quieter, flatter. I caught a glimpse of movement by the window, a shadow shifting inside the glass reflection, not outside. I swung the flashlight there. Nothing. Just my own distorted reflection. I could see O'Donnell's beam flashing down the hall. "Clear," he said. "Bedroom's empty. Bathroom, too." Then he stopped talking. Dawn. Silence. I waited. "O'Donnell, copy?" My radio hissed. A low frequency buzz that built until it clipped out with a sharp pop. Then the line cut dead. I moved down the hallway, flashlight trembling across peeling wallpaper and family photos warped from moisture. Every face in the pictures looked blurred, like the ink had melted. Except one, a little girl. Her eyes were still sharp, almost too sharp, like they'd been drawn over again. O'Donnell, answer me. My voice cracked. The rain hit harder outside, hammering the roof in waves. The light in the living room flickered once and went dark. My body felt heavy, like gravity had shifted. I reached the end of the hall. The door to the back room was open a crack. I nudged it with the barrel of my flashlight. The beam caught movement, a shoulder, I thought, but when the door opened, the room was empty. Only an old police radio sat on the floor, still powered, even though there was no cable. The display showed our unit number, 47. Then the static rose again, louder, filling the air like wind through a tunnel. It hurt my ears. Between the bursts, a voice broke through, my own, recorded. Possible 10-56, checking residence. It was me, but distorted, slowed down. I dropped the mic. O'Donnell. I shouted. Nothing. The sound of rain was gone now, too, replaced by that low hum coming from somewhere outside. I turned back down the hall, and for a second I saw him, standing at the end of it, flashlight off, facing me. His uniform soaked, face pale, eyes wide and glassy. I started toward him. Hey, Don, you okay? He didn't answer. He raised one hand slowly, pointing toward the front door. Then his face flickered. Not moved, flickered like bad footage skipping frames. One moment there, the next gone, then there again, but wrong. Too tall, his mouth a dark line. Then everything snapped to black. The flashlight died in my hand. My heartbeat echoed in my ears like thunder. I tried to turn it back on, shaking it hard. The beam flickered weakly back to life. The hallway was empty. No O'Donnell. Only the faint trail of wet footprints leading out the door, vanishing into the mud. I stumbled outside, calling for him. The fog had thickened into a wall of gray. The cruiser's lights were out, but the dashcam red LED blinked steadily, like an eye watching. I leaned in through the open driver's door. The radio was alive again, only this time the channel was wrong. Dispatch frequency 10-23, not ours. A woman's voice crackled through. Unit 47, we have your location as mile 23. Are you receiving? I froze. This is Unit 47. I read you. Where the voice cut me off. Copy, Unit 47. We show you still en route. ETA, 6 minutes. I stared at the rain streaking down the windshield. Negative. We're on scene. But the voice repeated, you're still en route. No signal from body cams. Please confirm. The wipers jerked once, scraping across dry glass. Then I saw it in the reflection, the same figure we'd caught earlier, standing behind the car this time. Close enough to touch. The radio popped, speaker crackling loud enough to make me flinch. Then came a sound again. Breathing. Deep. Slow. Right next to my ear. The sound was too close to be coming from the radio. It vibrated through the metal of the cruiser, deep and uneven, like something dragging air through a wet throat. I turned slowly, hand on my holster, but there was only fog and the faint outline of trees melting into it. My breath came out ragged, clouding the air. The rain had stopped completely. Not slowed, stopped. Every drop hung motionless, suspended mid-fall, glinting in the weak light from the dash. The silence pressed against my eardrums until I could hear my own pulse. I stepped back from the car, eyes scanning the tree line. My flashlight flickered, then steadied. O'Donnell. My voice barely reached past the hood. Don, where the hell are you? Nothing answered but that low hum again, seeping out from between the trees. I felt it before I heard it, a vibration crawling up through the ground, into my legs, through my ribs. I aimed the light toward the woods. For a second, I thought I saw him. A dark shape, uniform maybe, moving deeper between the pines. I ran after it, boots sinking into the mud. Every step sounded wrong, muffled, delayed, like the forest was swallowing sound. The trees closed in fast. The deeper I went, the darker it got, until my flashlight felt useless. The beam hit trunks, missed. Nothing else. But the sound was everywhere now. It wasn't just one tone, it was layers. Whispers buried under the hum. voices too low to separate. My name flickered between them. Cole. That was O'Donnell's voice. Or close enough. Cole, over here. I turned sharply. Where? The voice echoed again, from the opposite side this time. Here, then closer. Behind you. I spun, light trembling across branches. Empty. The fog shimmered faintly, like heat mirage. Something tall shifted just beyond the edge of vision. Not walking, gliding. My body refused to move at first. It felt like being underwater, every motion slow, heavy. The air smelled burnt, electric. Then came the sound of a radio click right behind me. I froze. Static whispered inches from my ear. Unit 47, said a voice, quiet, metallic. Officer O'Donnell, status? I turned. The radio on my shoulder was off. The voice kept talking, even though the unit wasn't transmitting. Cole, it said, clearer now. He's gone. The trees stretched wider, the ground tilting slightly under my boots. It didn't make sense. The terrain was shifting like it was breathing. My flashlight beam wavered across the mud, catching more footprints. O'Donnell's boots, same size, same tread. They circled a few feet ahead, then stopped abruptly at a puddle. I leaned closer. The water reflected the sky, but the angle was wrong. It didn't show the trees or me, just static. Moving, grainy static. I stepped back fast, heart slamming. The puddle rippled outward like something had moved beneath it. Then a hand broke the surface, pale, slick, wrong. Fingers too long, nails black with mud. It clawed at the air, pulling up something that looked like O'Donnell's radio, tangled in hair and moss. I stumbled back, slipped, hit the ground. The radio in my pocket crackled at that same instant. Cole, the voice came again, warped, stretching each syllable. Don't look. I couldn't help it. I looked. The shape rose from the puddle slow, unfolding like a shadow peeling off the ground. It wasn't human anymore, at least not completely. Its limbs hung too far, joints bending wrong, face obscured by a smear of darkness that moved on its own. But the uniform, it was O'Donnell's. The badge still glinted faintly on the chest. I whispered, Dawn. The head tilted, twitching like a film skipping frames. Then it smiled, not with its mouth. There was no mouth, but with the sound of breathing turning into laughter, low and wet. I ran. Branches tore my sleeves. The forest warped around me, angles shifting, paths repeating. Every few steps, I'd see flashes of red light, like the cruiser's emergency bar blinking somewhere ahead. But each time I reached it, it moved further back, deeper into the fog. The hum grew louder, collapsing in a static so dense it filled my skull. My radio screamed with feedback, voices overlapping, dispatch, O'Donnell, my own reports from earlier, all tangled into one unbearable chorus. Then everything stopped. No sound, no folk, just the open clearing again. The cruiser sat exactly where we'd left it. Lights still off, except the dash cam was pointed toward the woods now, not the road. I didn't remember turning it. I climbed in, slammed the door, locked it. My hand shook so hard I could barely fit the key in. The ignition clicked, but the engine wouldn't start. The rain began again all at once, like someone had pressed play. I turned to the passenger seat. It wasn't empty anymore. O'Donnell sat there, soaked, face turned toward the window. His skin was gray-blue, lips slightly parted. He didn't blink. I reached out, whispering, "Hey." He turned his head slowly toward me. His eyes were black. The radio lit up, blaring my own voice from 10 minutes ago, panicked, breathless. O'Donnell's missing. I'm requesting backup. Then the feed broke into static. O'Donnell's milid. It wasn't human. The headlights flicked on by themselves, flooding the windshield in white. For a second, I thought I saw a reflection in the glass. Not us, but two other figures sitting in the same seats, watching. Then the world went white, soundless. When I opened my eyes, I was standing outside the cruiser again. Door open, rain pouring. Everything looked normal. Engine running. Dashboard clock read 3:12, the same minute we'd received the original call. My radio came alive with dispatch. Unit 47, please confirm response to mile 23. Caller reports screaming in the woods. I stared at the clock. It didn't move. I pressed the mic copy. I said automatically. My voice sounded distant, hollow. I looked into the rearview mirror. O'Donnell wasn't there, but someone was sitting in the back seat, smiling in the dark. The dashcam recovered from the cruiser later showed the moment we arrived at the scene. Except according to the GPS log, we never left the station. The timestamp loops between 3:12 and 3:47, never progressing beyond that. No video after, just a black frame with faint white noise crawling across it. But I remember everything. I remember the sound of the rain and how it stopped without warning, how every second felt wrong. When I came to, I was still sitting in the car, engine humming like nothing had happened. The fog was gone. The woods looked ordinary again, quiet, harmless, soaked in moonlight. I tried to breathe, but my chest felt heavy, my body cold. Hands shaking so hard the flashlight slipped from my grip and rolled under the seat. I looked in the rearview mirror. Nothing there. Just the empty back seat, though it looked darker than it should have been. I reached for the mic, voice barely steady. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. We responded to mile 23. My partner is unaccounted for. Requesting backup and static swallowed the rest. Then a faint voice answered, calm and clear. Copy, Unit 47. Sending additional units. ETA 8 minutes. I exhaled, eyes stinging. Copy. I leaned back, listening to the engine hum. The rain tapped against the window again, soft and uneven. My own reflection stared back from the glass, eyes wide, unfocused. For a second, I saw movement behind me in that reflection, like someone sitting in the back. I turned fast. Nothing. I could feel the heat of my own breath, but the air behind me was cold. I got out of the car. The forest was silent except for a faint ticking sound, like a watch buried in mud. I called O'Donnell's name until my throat hurt. My flashlight beam kept catching strange glints between the trees, metallic small, disappearing when I tried to focus. I followed the footprints again, the ones that led away from the house. They ended near the edge of the clearing. But now there were more. Not one set, three. Two human, one not. The third looked like something dragging, fingers carving through the mud. I followed them a few steps before realizing the ground underneath wasn't dirt anymore. It was asphalt. The sound changed. I looked down, saw painted road lines beneath my boots. The forest was gone. I was standing back on the highway, mile 23 sign glowing faintly in the fog. My cruiser sat 10 feet away, engine off this time, door open. I could hear a radio faintly through the open window. Unit 47, do you copy? You're still en route to the location. Caller reports screaming near Old Ridge Lane. The voice was dispatch. My hand went numb around the mic. Negative, I said. We've been on scene. The house is static again. Then a voice, but not dispatch this time. It was O'Donnell. Cole, get back in the car. The tone was wrong, slowed like tape dragging. It's still inside. The radio clicked off. I turned toward the woods. They were closer now, much closer. The trees leaned over the road like arms. The darkness between them shimmered, alive with faint motion. I stepped back slowly toward the cruiser. The headlights flashed once by themselves, then cut out. The door slammed shut. The sound came next. Breathing, the same rhythm as before, but this time from everywhere. It was inside the rain, inside the static, inside me. My heart was beating too fast, faster than the clock on the dash. The digital numbers flickered, 313, 314, then back again. I reached for the camera switch, hoping to at least get footage. The feed turned on for half a second, showing something reflected in the windshield. Not my face, not O'Donnell's. A third person, sitting in the back seat, staring directly at the lens, mouth open like a scream with no sound. Then the feed glitched and froze on that frame. The image burned white, then black. The radio spoke again, low and calm. Unit 47, Please confirm location. Last known signal, mile 23. I tried to respond, but my throat wouldn't work. My hands wouldn't either. The air was thick, vibrating. My own reflection smiled in the window. I wasn't smiling. Then the engine roared to life without me touching the key. The headlights stayed off, but the red and blue lights on the roof began to flash, casting color through the fog. The siren didn't sound, just the flicker of lights pulsing faster and faster until they became one continuous white glow. The next thing I remember is standing outside the car again, rain pouring, sunrise bleeding faint through the fog. My watch said 7:42. Dispatch was still calling. Unit 47, please respond. I answered. My voice came out hoarse. This is Unit 47. I stopped. The car was empty. The inside was dry. No mud. No signs of struggle. 2 cups of coffee still warm in the holders. Bodycam's gone. Dashcam missing. And my partner's badge was sitting neatly on the hood, shining under the rain. The nameplate was blank. When backup arrived 30 minutes later, they found only me standing in the road. No house at Old Ridge Lane, no trailer, no path through the woods. The coordinates from our call log pointed to an empty stretch of asphalt. The dashcam file from that night loops endlessly between 2 frames. O'Donnell entering the woods and me standing alone in the road. Nothing else. The case file was closed 3 days later. Equipment malfunction. False location ping. They said the signal never left the station. But last night, at exactly 3:12, dispatch received a call from the same number. Same address. Female voice, panicked, barely audible through static. She said, "They're still out there." Then the line went dead. Last transmission, Unit 47, mile 23. Status, missing. Signal active.